Welcome to Unit 2, Solving Inequalities. In our fourth lesson, we will be solving multi-step inequalities and also inequalities with variables on both sides. So for our first example, we have 5 plus 4b is less than 21. As I've said in the past, feel free to change the variable to a different letter, especially lowercase b's tend to look like 6's sometimes. So here we have 5 plus 4x is less than 21. And again, we want to solve for x. We want x by itself, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides, just like I would if this were an equation. I'm then left with 4x is less than 16. Using my division property of inequalities, I'm going to divide both sides by 4. No need to flip the inequality sign because I'm dividing both sides by a positive value, and I get x to be less than 4. So here I can use any number less than 4 to check to make sure that my inequality is true. Let's pick 0 because it's the easiest. If I plug 0 back in, I have 5 plus 4 times 0 is less than 21. And I end up getting 5 is less than 21, which is true. So I know my solution works. In my next example here, using the derivative property, this is where most students will make mistakes with signs. So be very, very careful. As with any equation, if you have the distributive property, you want to distribute before you start to solve the equation, or in this case, the inequality. So I am distributing that 4 to both the 6, getting 24 there, and the minus x to get minus 4x. So we can see here now I have an inequality that I have used the distributive property to start to simplify. Now I'm going to combine like terms, and I put that 1 there to help hold its place, not lose that negative sign. So I have -1 plus 24 is less than 2. So in order to solve this for x, I'm going to subtract 24 from both sides, again using my properties of inequality, and I'm left with -1x is less than -22. So in order to solve for a positive 1x, I'm going to divide both sides by a -1. And again, a bell should be going off in your head. As I've said, that inequality is going to need to be flipped because I've divided both sides by a negative, and I'm left with x is greater than 22. So again, you could pick any value you want that is greater than 22. I am going to let's pick 106, and you'll see here why in a second. So I have 3 times 106 plus 4 times 6 minus 106, because remember I'm replacing that x with 106 is less than 2. Okay, so now I'm going to simplify, and I get 3 times 106, which is 318, plus 4 times whatever 6 minus 106 is. You see why I picked 106 there? So 4 times 100, and that's going to be a -100, should be less than 2. So now I have 318 plus, that should be 100 there, okay, and plus a -400 is less than 2. And now I get a negative, 72 is less than 2. Is that true? That is so true. So you can see here why we need to flip that inequality. And there's my check as well. You should be able to draw a number line and graph that solution on a number line as well. So here we have one more multi-step inequality, and in this case we have the distributive property on both sides. So first off, we are going to use that distributive property on both sides to start to clean up our sides. So we're left with -15 plus 5. And again, I'm changing mine to x's just because I don't like lowercase d's there. And that is going to be less than or equal to 9x minus 6. So with a problem like this, I want to combine like terms. And again, no two people are going to solve this inequality the same way. Just use your property, be able to justify why you're doing something. Nothing's magic is happening here. We're just using those properties. So for me, I'm going to subtract 9x from both sides. And again, someone else might solve this a little differently, but as long as we're using our properties and watching our signs, we should be fine. So we are now left with negative 15 minus 4x is less than or equal to negative 6. So then now I'm going to add 15 to both sides, again using that addition property of equalities. And I'm left with negative 4x is less than or equal to 9. Okay, so in my final step, I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 4. Are bells going off in your head? They should be, because if we divided both sides by a negative, so I have to flip that inequality sign around, and I'm left with x is greater than or equal to negative 9/4. No need to do anything else with that. If you really want to make that negative 2 1/4, you could, but again, not necessary. And that is our final solution there. And just a final reminder, so basically to solve multi-step inequalities, use the exact same steps you would for solving equations. However, on the last step, don't forget to flip the inequality symbol if you have multiplied or divided by a negative number. And that's really important. Only flip that inequality if you've divided both sides by a negative or multiplied both sides by a negative number. If you multiplied or divided by a positive, no need to flip the inequality.